So my boyfriend and I went on a date last night, and we do this thing where we kind of switch off. So he planned our date last week, which meant I had to plan our date this week. And I chose like dinner, let's take a walk through downtown, and since it's Halloween's time, let's go back home and let's watch a movie. So I had to pick a movie. I saw this kind of Netflix movie showing kind of in betweens my rerun of The Office. I saw this preview for this movie called In the Grass, which I was like, a word? I picked that movie, even though it kind of looks scary. I was like, whatever, it's October. Moons out, goons out, bitches. Let's get it. I have so much to say about this movie. I am not a movie review channel. Let's get that out. But I love movies. That's something I've never hidden here before. I love films. I love everything about them. Production, set, music, actors, writing, everything. So I just want to get that out there real quick. I don't want you guys coming for me being like, who do you think you are? Criticizing movies like you're some goddamn movie critic. Son, I'm not. But last I checked, this is America. So we get home from our date and it's like 8 o'clock at this point. We take a shower separately. We get in bed, we put the movie on the laptop. Turns out the movie is actually called In the Tall Grass, which makes it just a little bit more eerie because in the grass, you're like, okay, it's grass. In the short grass, it's short grass. It's not gonna hurt anybody. It might tickle your ankles a little bit, but it's not gonna do anything. But in the tall grass, okay, like there might be a movie here. And I've always been that person growing up that watched Disappeared, I Shouldn't Be Alive, hella murder porn. I grew up with a lot of stories about people like going missing and in forests and in places where like there was a lot of tall grass. Don't go messing around in a maze is all I'm saying. Let's get into the movie though. So the movie opens up to a bunch of screaming grass. That's not an exaggeration. There's like moans and groans and yellies and just a bunch of screaming grass. And you're like, bitch, like shut up, okay? We get it. You're tall. What are you complaining about? Then it opens up to a scene of like a man, probably like in his like 30s, and a woman, probably in her like late 20s, in a car. And then it just cuts to a really gross scene of homeboy biting into the hamburger, all ASMR-ish. And you're like, gross, I'm gonna throw up. Turns out homegirl does. They have to pull the car over and she like blows her load. I know that's not the way this phrase is used, but I'm gonna stick with it. All over the pavement. Turns out she's pregnant. 1000% up the spout. 6 months. You learn that later on in the movie. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm gonna be real. In the beginning, I was like, this is gonna be a good movie. It looked really good. The way it started. The setup was almost immediate. The setup was explained in the first, I would say 20 minutes of the movie. Because they pull over on the side of the road. There's the tall grass. Being tall and whatever the F. And then you hear a little kid cry for help. Why, sir? First of all, if I've learned anything from anything ever, it's call the cops. Like, I'm not saying I wouldn't help a kid, but I would also call the cops immediately and be like, hey, I'm pregnant. My brother's like my only other person with me on this trip. Why are we gonna play heroes? This grass is tall. So they get into the grass. There's gonna be a bunch of spoils in this movie. So if you guys haven't watched it, I recommend you guys pause the video, go watch the movie like real quick, and then hop on in here so we can discuss. We're still very much in the setup of the movie. They both go into the maze, the grass. Whole son of maze. If it were to be a tall one. They both go into the freaking tall grass, which is so dumb. Like, it's stupider than my cat's thumbs. And they're wandering around and they get lost. Like, they don't even stay together. You guys, the buddy system. It is a thing for a reason. They're like in the first phases of kind of noticing that they can't really get back to each other. They can't find one another. They just hear each other's voices, but they can't really find each other. And so homegirl starts yelling out stuff about weenies and vaginas. I'm not making this up. It's in North Carolina or some shit. Still in the setup. And so they're like, you know what? Our voices are kind of getting tossed around. Let's do this thing where we are gonna hop up and clap. And homeboy, using his damn noggin, is like, I don't think you should be jumping, ma'am. You're 6 months pregnant. By this time, it's kind of explained. And she's like, nah, it's totally fine. So they count to 3, typical. They see each other in the grass and they're like this far apart. Pretend this is a grass and the grass is tall. And then they're like, all right, we're close. Now we kind of have an idea where we are. Let's do it one more time just to make sure. And then they're like further apart. By this point, my boyfriend and I are like, great movie, Gloria. Pats herself on the back. Because we learned that it's not gonna be so much a horror movie. It's gonna be more of like a psychological kind of thriller. And still kind of sticking with the theme. Moons out, goons out, bitches. It was giving both of us very much monkey paw production. Like, this is a Jordan Peele type of movie. Get Out, Us. Back to the jumping in the tall grass. So they freak out at this point. They know now that they are in trouble. They know now that something is going on here, and they know now that they shouldn't have helped the little kid, who, by the way, they're still looking for. He's still kind of calling out to them. It's very confusing because you don't really see the kid. And then homeboy stumbles upon a dead dog, guts out, maggots, flies in the tall grass. And you're like, gross. And then Nightfall happens because we live in a 24-hour situation and continuity and shit. And then homeboy kind of falters a little bit, or what happens? I don't know. He ends up on the ground somehow. And then the little boy finally shows up and he's like dirty, creepy. You know, the creepy little kid in a horror movie, the norm. And then he says the line that the movie kind of follows. It's things are easier to find when they're dead because the grass doesn't move things when they're dead. Typical shit a 7-year-old says. And then you're kind of like, what is happening? We are still in Act 1. Get us into Act 2. Mind you, this movie's like almost 2 hours long. I would say it's like an hour and 40 minutes. It's like a long movie. And then baby daddy shows up into the picture. By the way, this kid's name is like Tipton or Toby, or I don't know, something with a T. Do they stumble upon the rock yet? By the way, there's a rock, and this whole movie is kind of situated around the rock and how everybody has to touch the rock and how the rock wants to be touched because it's lonely or something. And you are kind of led to believe that they both just kind of dies. Oh, because by the way, pregnant homegirl, she gets snatched up by some woman after she starts to get led by Tristan's dad, who also shows up in the picture. We'll come back to them later because there's a family who has already been lost. So it's Tori, Tori's dad, and Tori's mom. I think her name is Natalie or something. The pregnant lady gets snatched up while following Tegan's dad. So you're kind of led to believe that she dies and homeboy dies. Then it gets switched over to a shot, which by the way, the shots in this movie were actually really beautiful. The movie was beautifully made to an extent. You kind of piece together that that's baby daddy. His name is Travis, by the way. He kind of looks like my friend Joe. He also kind of looks like Leo DiCaprio, which is a little weird. In the beginning, I was like, is Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie? What? Leo DiCaprio in a Netflix original? How noble. But then it's not him. And he's looking for girlfriend, baby mama, I don't know. Also, there's a church. Okay, so he passes by the church and he passes by a bowling alley. Put a pin in that because we're gonna come back to that. As he's driving past the church, which there's a parking lot, and the parking lot is full of cars. Mind you, all of these cars look like they've just been abandoned and they're super just eerie. And so as he's driving past the church, he sees the car that he knows they're driving. So he pulls over, looks into the car, sees a burger full of maggots, our little ASMR burger we were talking about. And again, you're like, gross. He then walks inside of the church, which I can handle vampires, werewolves, goblins, ghouls of any sort. Put religion in any movie and I'm terrified. Son, I had nightmares after the Sister Act. I just don't do religion in movies. It's terrifying. It just adds a whole other element of creep. So he walks into the church and then it's empty, obvio. And then he walks further into a church behind a freaking door. And it's so creepy. I don't know why he does this. I mean, we get why he does this in the end of the movie by the third act, but still in that moment, you're like, sir, pray or get out of there or just leave. There isn't a sculpture. There isn't really like a cross in there. It was creepy. Jesus didn't even want to be up in that church, and that's saying something. That's homeboy's house. We are going to be using the double entendre palette by Colourpop, by the way. He leaves the church, he walks outside, and then he sees the book. I think it was like Jane Eyre or something, or by Jane Eyre. I By the way, Becky was reading this book because she signed it. Becky's the pregnant one. And so he sees that it's just kind of like there. And then you witness him go into the damn field in search of her. And in your mind, you're screaming, "Sir, don't go in there." Surprise, surprise. He gets lost in the field too. And then night falls again. Continuity. Can't find homegirl. And then little Troy shows up again. And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing here? Get the hell out of here, Taliban. We saw what happened last time you tried to help a man." But this time, he's like, "Hey, I don't know, the little boy's kind of eerie in these parts of the movie, but then you kind of get to really love little Tyrone. You become kind of attached to his character." So he's like, "I know where Becky is." And then homeboy's like, "How the F do you even know who Becky is?" And then the kid is like, "I know everything because I touched the rock." Again, we're brought back to the rock, which is such a hole in this movie that I haven't questioned, sir. Anyways, he brings up touching the rock, and I think he takes him to the rock. No, he takes him to Becky the pregnant one, who now you see is like hella dead. And then the kid says his little line again, "The grass doesn't move things that are already dead." We heard it the first time, and then I think it kind of like fades out. No, he finds his necklace, or a necklace. He finds a necklace, and apparently the necklace has some sort of meaning, which is never really explained. It's just kind of like a token of like love, and it's sad and you kind of weep for them. The scene kind of fades out. I'm pretty sure I might be missing something. I only watched the movie once. It's morning again, and we see a family pull up in a minivan to a church parking lot that's empty. Remember, I already said that the parking lot of the church was full. Remember that. I already said that. Turns out it's Timothy and his whole fam bam, his dad and the moms. I don't know what lures them. I forget what lured them into the... Oh, also Freddy, the dog. I think his name is Freddy. But they all end up in the grass. We literally just flippin' saw Timothy not that long ago. Like in the beginning of the movie, he's the one that let the brother start explaining stuff. By this point, we are definitely in the second act. We've gotten all the characters. The movie has definitely been set up. We now know the issue. We're about to get into the conflict and then the resolution and then whatever. And by the way, Becky is decomposed the house. Like, he didn't find her body, face and everything. Literally the bare bones of her. So at this point, it kind of tells you like Becky has not only been lost, but the bitch has been lost for a while. Like, Travis, son, you're late. Later than her period was. At this point, you're like, it's been a while, time has passed, whatever, or whatever the F. Time is a construct. Oh yeah, the parents are there now. Oh yeah, you know what lures in the parents? Travis, well, kind of, because Travis kind of stops him because the dad walks in and he's like, "Hey, are you in here already? Don't come in here." And then the dad goes, "Kind of too late for that, son." By the way, the father character is like a really interesting, very happy all the time, too blessed to be stressed, always cracking jokes. The cool dad, you know, like, "Dad, I'm hungry." "Hey, hungry, I'm dad." That type of character. Things are going in such a weird order. I don't know, there's so many holes in this movie now that I'm thinking about it. And then it takes you back to the point where Becky, the pregnant one, and her brother show up, but it's kind of from the angle of someone from the church. So you're definitely at the midpoint kind of twist of the entire movie. And basically all this kind of tells you is there was 2 cameras being used the whole time for one scene, which is smart and efficient. Both director and other people on the set tricks up their blades, if you catch my drift. So now all of them are in the field, and it kind of explains like why they're all in there, their backstory, how they ended up in there. And then it just gets really weird. You've seen so many dead bodies and you like assume, because Tucker has been showing out throughout the whole movie, kind of being like, "Hey, are you okay? I'm already dead. It's fine. We're all dead here. We won't get moved." Dad, the realtor, shows up and he gives you an eerie feeling the second time he shows up. Well, he gives you an eerie feeling the first time he shows up to help Becky, the pregnant girl, and you just kind of go with it because, again, you know, the movie is getting explained. I don't know necessarily what happens. I don't really remember much about the movie. They are led to believe at this point, because they all kind of show up and are like, "Hey, what are you doing here, sir?" And then the brother's like, "What are you doing here? She doesn't need you in her life." You know, like being total like big brother type of stuff. Not the reality show, the relation. I mean, they kind of set all that stuff aside and are like, "You guys, we need to find a way out of here. there has to be a way. Travis explains to the brother and the sister that, hey, like, I followed you guys. Like, I realized I made a mistake, because I guess it's kind of said that he didn't want the bebe. And then the brother's like, you had to have been right on our ass. And then he was like, no, it's actually been a while. And they're like, what, like a couple of days? And he's like, nah, son, it's been 2 months. What the flip? One thing's for sure, we need to get out of this tall grass. They start devising a plan. Travis puts Trent on his shoulders and is like, look out, if you see a building, like, lead us to it. And so he does, and he's like, I do see a building, bowling alley. And they all are like, oh, we saw that when we were driving here. That's close to the church, which is close to safety, basically. They kind of hatch out this plan, and then the father shows up and is like, hey, it's not a straight line, but I can get you out of here. Shut up, Dad. I just got powder on my nose. Night comes, and guess where he freaking leads them to, basically? The rock. Turns out he's been touching this rock since the beginning, and he's the flippin' bad guy. And then he goes on and on about like how everybody needs to touch the rock. Just touch the rock and you'll know the way out of here, and you'll know all the secrets of life. It's such a euphoric experience. It's better than anything you've ever felt before. It's better than food and pleasure and sex. And okay, Dad, that's a stretch. That's a flex. Calm down. But he's like trying to force people to touch the rock. Like, get all up on this rock. It'll get your rocks off. Just touch the rock. By the way, it's not just a rock. It's like this huge boulder, little carvings in it. This is the point of the movie where like my boner for it was definitely starting to like, you started seeing the cheese in it, and you started seeing it real quick. Obviously, this guy's bad. He's creepy because he touched the rock. Let's all get away from him. I have to put on eyeliner. Hold on. Oh my God, no, this is the best part. Oh my God, I almost forgot this. Buckle the F up. In this whole, this rock is better than sex speech, the mom comes out, Natalia, trying to hold on to Tanner or whatever. She's like, come with me, like, be with me. Your dad is crazy psycho. And then the dad is like, no, not even Carol. I know what I'm talking about. Also, I've been cheating on you with this rock. He like gets the mom in like a chokehold, and then he squishes her head like a grape, and then her head explodes in his hand, and it's very graphic. Her eyeballs pop out, and you're like, get the F out of here. It gets so cheesy so quick from there. At this point, they're all like, we should go. And so they do just that, and then they end up at an empty bowling alley, which is the building that is close to the church that the little boy was seeing the whole time. By the way, there's a part that I kind of skipped over, that Timoni ends up hopping off Travis's shoulders for like a little bit, and then they hop back on. I think it was just like to take a break or something. And then he's like, okay, like, what way do I go again? Do you see the building? And then T, the stallion, is like, I don't see the building anymore. Yeah, it gets real creepy. A lot of stuff like that happens. Todd is like traumatized because he just saw his mom get killed in the face, and then they all run to the roof. First of all, the boyfriend and the brother have an exchange of words. The brother's like, you're not good enough for her, you abandoned her, I'm the one that's actually taking care of her. And the brother's just like not having it, and baby daddy gets really mad and is like, well, you know what, maybe you're just the one that wants to F your own sister, bro. And then the brother's like, gross. And so they start like punching each other and like having the stereotypical macho man fight in a movie. And then they have like this real Scar and Mufasa moment. The boyfriend is kind of holding on to the brother for dear life on top of the roof of this ginormo building. It's not that big. Long live the king or something. Point is, he purposely drops Travis, and Travis is presumed dead again. We see a hole because the dog is there too. The dog kind of leads them to this hole of how the dog made it out of the field and into the church, so basically into safety. So the goal here is, let's follow the dog. Not the best plan because they end up in the field again. They all get separated again. The brother dies again because the dad catches up to the brother. And there's a really cool point in this part of the movie where it was very interesting, but very cool. Like, I just thought it was a really smart thing put into a really dumb movie. The dad kills him, but before that you see all of the deaths that he has already lived. So he's been in this same scenario, and he's gone left, he's turned right, he's turned left, he's taken kind of all the options, but it is kind of shown to him that he loses every single time. He also eventually catches up to the pregnant one, starts talking all sexual about his boo thing, the boulder, and how he wants to just put it in its pooper. But because he's all riled up, he starts to almost, something that rhymes with grape, and you like start getting really scared because like she's pregnant and it's sad. Then somebody saves her. Who saves her? Oh, no. She stabs him with a pair of scissors that she finds from a fanny pack that has fallen on the ground. It's never really explained whose. Well, it might. I don't know. I forgot. They end up by the rock again, and then some stuff happens. She kind of experiences. Things get so bad. Like, this is where this movie just took a really cheesy turn, and you start seeing like the fetus baby start growing leaves inside of it. Like, it starts getting intertwined with grass, and you're like, okay, like, gross. This is such a reach now. There's bodies under the boulder. There's people crying. The ground opens up for her. Her brother starts feeding her baby. There's just like a field in the uterus. I turned over to my boyfriend and I was like, you are not supposed to have this much dairy, sir. Cheesy the house. Then it kind of fades into the guy is feeding her. Like, Travis winds up there, and then they start fighting because all the dad wants is for them to touch the rock, and then they fight, and then they like basically kill each other. The pregnant one is just kind of laying there. You think she's dead. Trying to force him to touch the rock because he's like still preaching to the choir that if you just touch the rock, everything will become clear and you'll be fine and life is going to be great and you won't need intercourse anymore. Stop talking about the rock. They just keep having like this discussion of he's not going to stop, he's going to come back, he's going to kill us again, and that's just going to be our eternities. We're just going to keep dying and keep coming back to life in this field. And then Travis kind of gets this epiphany of, I'm just gonna touch the rock. Which you're like, why did you go through this whole ordeal of the dad forcing you and you fighting off the dad and you killing the dad, and even though you know the dad's probably gonna come back to life again, if you're just gonna end up touching the rock anyway. So he ends up touching the rock. The rock kind of talks to him. The rock kind of talks throughout the whole movie, and this whole time Thaddeus is kind of just crying because he was screaming at him like, don't touch the rock. Which, here's my whole thing about this movie, is if the little boy in the beginning of the movie has already been dead and is already basically being his dad and telling people to touch the rock, why is he still good? The dad was bad the entire time. We got that because he had already touched the rock. So Travis touches the rock and he's like, okay, I see it now. And then he grabs Tigo. He says something cheesy like, I belong here, I deserve this, you don't deserve this, and she doesn't deserve this. Talking about Becky the private one. They start running through the field of the tall grass. Then he gives the necklace, because I guess he had the same necklace she had or something. There's a necklace, the necklace that I've been talking to you guys about. He grabs the little boy, puts the necklace, and he like picks him up and is like, do not let them come into this field. Whatever you do, little Tio, do not let them come into this field. He throws the little boy out of the field, but then he lands back in that in church again with the church. Take religion out of this. We really got to start separating church and scary movies, you guys. This just has to happen. So the little boy shows up in the church where Travis shouldn't have gone, back in time, and he's at the point where brother and sister first stopped by the field, and then she is about to go into the field because remember, this is the point where they hear homeboy who is in the field but also in the church but also in the field runs out and is like, don't go in there. And the other people are like, where are your parents? And he's like, it doesn't matter, we gotta go, we gotta get out of here, please listen to me. No, we need to help, there's a little boy in there, like we have to help him. And he's like, no, there's not, like just listen to me, you have to trust me. And the only way he gets them to trust him is by pulling out the necklace. The lactose in this alone. But they end up not going into the field. He gets in the car with them. It's kind of noted that they're gonna go to the police station immediately, which they should have done in the beginning, and we wouldn't have known about this big giant tall Michael Jordan LeBron James grass. The whole time this is happening, the whole time the boy's saving them and they get back into the car and they just drive off, Travis is watching from inside the grass. And again, this would have been such a cute moment if this movie wasn't already so cheesy and you would have been like, "Aww." This whole time, mind you, my boyfriend was into this movie. Like, he was all about it. He loved it. He was like, I just love the originality. You don't see stuff like this. The grass is tall. And then you find out that this whole time, this is a freaking book by Stephen King and his Spawn. You know, you think it's an original, and then turns out Stephen King wrote it. And isn't that the way the cookie always crumbles? knows? I don't know, maybe if they didn't put the grass in the uterus, maybe if they didn't put the drawings on the rocks, or maybe if they didn't bring Jesus right into it. I don't know. Like I said, you guys, I'm not a movie critic, but damn. I'm not trying to sway you guys from not watching it. I'm just saying personally, would I watch it again? No. But will I be diving into some tall grass anytime soon? No.